Good afternoon, everyone. It is currently 3:46 p.m. Eastern time, and we're sitting here. Our guest today is Matthew Cappucci. Just started his new job. We'll let him kind of introduce himself, and we'll start asking some questions. So, if you want to give us a little bit about yourself, feel free to.
Say that again. It was a little bit muty. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Bit of
Okay.
an echo.
So, yeah, we have our guest here, Matthew. He's going to introduce himself for a little bit, talk about what he's been doing, how he got into weather, and after that, we'll start
Cool.
answering questions. So, floor is yours, man.
Great. Well, hi, folks. Great to meet you. My name is Matt Cappucci. I'm a meteorologist at the Washington Post Capital Weather Gang, Fox 5 here in D.C., and WAMU. So I do TV, radio, and written. I just started my job at Fox 5 about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago on air. I've been there for a little over a month training, and I love it. It's been my dream to work on air since pretty much I was 7 or 8 years old. I knew I wanted to work in a good-sized market like DC. DC has always felt like home. I came down here at first when I was 14 for weather camp, loved it so much, and I said, I have to work here someday. And through a weird twist of fate, I wound up being able to walk into a top 10 market here in DC, and I love it so far. Everybody's incredibly nice. The team is amazing, and it works out well too because I love having some variety in my career. So I can do TV, I can do radio, I can do written, and do it all simultaneously. And all my bosses are phenomenal at kind of cooperating with one another and working with my schedule. So I couldn't ask for anything better. It's a dream come true, and I'm loving it. That said, the sleep schedule is a little crazy. I woke up last night at midnight. I went to work around 1 in the morning, did the 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. show, had 16 weather hits. I drove home around 9 a.m., took a little bit of a nap after doing some calls and responding to emails. I wrote an article this afternoon, just did my 2 radio hits for NPR, and then I'm meeting with students tonight. And somehow I have to sleep again before I head back to work around 1 a.m. So it's definitely busy, definitely keeps you on your toes. I like working about 60 hours a week, though. It's good for you. So I tell myself.
Yeah. So we know that you've also done some storm chasing around this year as well, and I think I got you a tornado as well or two this year. Can you tell me just about how those experiences were earlier on this year that you went out and chasing up the planes?
Yeah, so that is my 5th year going out and chasing. I've had 3 really good years and then 2 not so good years. This year was by far the best year, and it was interesting because it was a very mesoscale year, and that we didn't have any big diving troughs come through. Didn't really have any big, like, widespread events up and down Tornado Alley. Instead, it was very much little finicky ones that had to do with either leftover outflow boundaries or little tiny small short waves or things like that. And I think that challenged me to become a even better forecaster. I'm a pretty adept severe forecaster right now. I live for convection. I try to be as intimate with weather models and the atmosphere as I can be. This year, though, really worked out well. It began on April 19th. I flew down to Birmingham, Alabama to pick up my truck because I had parked it there from when I was storm chasing earlier in the month. I wound up driving west to Texas. I went to Dallas, got there the night of April 22nd, and I had to pick up 2 of my friends at the airport, Gabriel and Alan, flying in from different cities. They both got there around 5 p.m. that night. I got them around 6 o'clock. We went to the Olive Garden, and I briefed them about the following day's forecast, which was a very tricky triple point setup where we weren't sure if stuff would fire in the warm sector well off to the east and be kind of sloppy, or if things would actually gel near the triple point, because we were just a little bit less than our convective temperature, meaning we were kind of nudging the temperature, but we wouldn't know if anything would fire or if things would remain fully capped. So we went to bed that night around, they went to bed around midnight. I was up working until 2 in the morning because I'm always working. I woke up the next morning about 5:30, started work again. I did all my articles through about 11 a.m., did a couple radio hits too, and I did a kids radio show too, so I jammed everything into that 6-hour morning block. And then with that, I looked at all the data, poured over data, and I said, we got to get to Quanah, Texas. So I piled them in the car. They were like, could we stop for lunch? I'm like, no, shut up. We're driving. You get lunch eventually. You don't need food. Because that's how storm chasing is. It's hurry up and get there. I finally stopped at a gas station. I did feed them. I'm not abusing them. And we wound up racing to Quanah, Texas. Got there around 3 p.m. First storms fired around 3:15. We had tornado warnings by 4 o'clock. So the timing was perfect. Met a couple folks in the parking lot, took some pictures, and then we wound up going just about 10 miles west sitting in a field and watching this supercell pop up. We watched that for about 2 hours. I got bored, and I wound up driving south to a cell that was popping kind of in the middle. And it was a beautiful LP. And I lost cell service. And when I got it back, there was a new tornado warning with a confirmed tornado to my east. It turns out that was just like a little dusty whirl. But we raced north towards Locke, Texas, and wound up driving. It was beautiful sunshine. We were coming into the backside of the storm. Nobody on the road in front of me. And all of a sudden, because I knew we'd eventually see the tornado, there's a debris ball on radar. We were 7 miles away. Gabriel and Alan didn't even know there was a tornado. They don't have any background in weather. And finally I said to them, hey, look, tornado, because you could see the silhouette as we were coming into the backside. And we did that, and we pulled up about a mile behind it, and just beautiful as across the road. It lifted, and then I said, we have to reposition. And so I was focused on the roadway, repositioning, and we lose radar coverage again, but I do everything visually. So we're going, I see the wall cloud, I'm looking over us, I'm like, yeah, that thing's turning fast. And I see all of a sudden we get a new frame on radar. We are directly beneath the hook. And I said to Gabriel and Al, hey, I'm focused on the road and driving east. Y'all look out the window. If you see anything spinny, let me know. And they thought I was joking, but I wasn't. So about 3 minutes later, Gabriel calls out, oh gosh, tornado. And I turn, and there's a tornado in the field about a half mile, 3/4 of a mile to our south. We position a little farther east, and just beautiful to watch it sweep through, big red dusty tornado. Then we wound up getting some hail in the RFD, about the size of, let's say, pool balls. Shattered my windshield, even though I had my hail cage on. It was coming in at an angle, and I forgot to put the wing flaps on. So that was the best day ever. That was like a great start to the chase. I dropped Gabriel off the next day. Alan stayed the following week. Nothing really happened for the start of May. I didn't have any really good chases. I got a nighttime wall cloud in Salina, Kansas with my buddy Kelby. Then Alan flew back on May 16th at night, so I missed the Lubbock tornado. But and he flew into Oklahoma City. So the next morning I woke up really early, worked through 10 a.m., piled him in the truck, and we drove 6 hours nonstop down to the Midland, Odessa area. We were in La Mesa, Texas, and we waited for initiation there. A few folks, and it started popping. A few folks went north. We went south, but huntographs that day were very straight, so things kept splitting. So all of the left splits seemed dominant. They were producing big hail, clockwise spinning storms. Right splits were really struggling, but I figured eventually the low-level jet would kick in around 7, 8 p.m. We had great inflow from the south, great moisture return, and ultimately I knew that if we held on to that long enough, something should fire. So, and there was this storm that was 50,000 feet. It wasn't doing anything, but it was up to 50,000 feet. So I was like, something has got to go with this. We wound up repositioning east of this storm, and we were the only ones on the storm for about 20 minutes. It was unbelievable. It was like watching this upside-down mountain spin. The structure just kept getting better and better and better. And we were in the inflow notch, so it wasn't a stitch of rain. There was some lightning to our north, but it was just serenely peaceful in a very weird way. And with that, I say to Alan, that wall cloud is going to drop a tornado in the next 10 minutes. And he was like, nah. And sure enough, about 2.5 miles to our west, this perfect tornado in an empty field, high contrast, sunset behind us, just absolutely picturesque and gorgeous with this whole structure above it. And I don't know if I can share a screen. Does it work like that?
Well, yes, you can.
Yes,
look at that.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, that adds just a whole new dynamic to this. When y'all post this online, will they hear or will they also see us?
They'll see both. If they're watching on YouTube.
If Carl clicks on it, then he can see the picture and everyone on the side.
Yeah,
but if he keeps it in the in all the frames, it'll still show it, but it'll show it as the same size as everyone else.
Yeah, I'm showing it right now.
Gotcha. Okay, so this is a really weird picture right here. See this road? So this is the road I was going down. We were driving in from the north. We had to pass a left split anticyclonic supercell here. So this thing is producing about golf ball hail. It is spinning clockwise. The counterclockwise wall cloud was this thing developing right here. We threaded the needle right in between. Wound up driving farther south. There's that left split. And then let me see. Things are a little bit out of order here. Oh, these are my favorites. Okay. So we get there, and immediately, here's Alan taking pictures in the truck. Immediately, look at that structure. It was just insane. Just gorgeous, and nobody was there. And just tornado touches down. There were a couple. Here the caravans eventually started arriving, but for a while it was just us and a couple other folks. But yeah, that structure was unbelievable and just so peaceful too. And it was fun to watch. Oh, off to the east, amazing Mamatis as well. But then look, that tornado, it was on the ground at this point. There were vortices dancing around. You can see one right here. But because it was so dry in LCLs, the condensation levels or cloud bases were high enough that we actually didn't really see too much in the way of ground condensate, except in those noodles, those multiple vortices, which were so cool to see, even those mid-level vortices right there spinning through. So really just amazing stuff. Eventually, the tornado kind of lifted, and the wall cloud just really dipped back up. But we wound up getting a second tornado, and I don't know if I can find that right here. It might be just a sec. We wound up getting a second tornado that proved quite interesting. So let's see. So here's what happens. First tornado kind of lifts. New wall cloud to the northeast. So you see that kind of cyclical tornado genesis as it hands off. We get beneath the wall cloud. It gets kind of creepy under there. So you see we're getting beneath it. But then look, here's that new funnel cloud right there. That winds up touching down. It's tough to see. Then the whole thing becomes rain wrapped. And we are just to the south. Like creepy blue sky, creepy green sky. We held out as long as we could. But the tornado is this thing right here. It's tough to see, but it's kind of wrapped in a collar cloud. And then the rear flank downdraft was just beautiful. Amazing sunsets on the south side, too. So that was just a great chase day. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful chase. Next day, we got a surprise tornado warned supercell. It, in my mind, held onto the boundary. It wasn't really ahead of the boundary, so it wound up producing more just a lot of hail and gusts of wind than anything tornadic. There were a couple little button funnels. That was a good day on the 17th. And then I dropped down off the airport. I got this ragged wall cloud with a brief little noodle near Akron, Colorado the next day. Wasn't an overly great chase, but it was still cool. And then, the best day ever, Selden, Kansas. So,
Oh, yeah.
whoops. I'll turn off my screen for a sec. So now, I think y'all can see me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll set the stage. So, Selden, Kansas. It's very tricky working full-time and working multiple jobs full-time while also trying to chase full-time for a month and a half. So I want to spend as much time with the data as I can. But when I'm working multiple jobs and working, 50 hours a week, I don't always have the chance. So like the night before I got in late storm chasing, I had to switch hotels because there was a spider, and spiders scare me. Tornadoes don't scare me, spiders scare me. And I had multiple student calls the night before, radio hits, the whole 9 yards. I got up early that morning, about 5:30, because that was the morning, May 24th, that was the morning of the total lunar eclipse. So I got up early to photograph that. Wound up seeing a bit of it before clouds took over. But one thing that I noticed, even at 6 a.m., there was convection. And the herd didn't indicate any convection, but there was convection. And it was weird to see that at 6 a.m. Like, you never see fresh convective clouds at 6 a.m. And so I knew it'd be kind of a robust day. What happened? Yeah, so I saw that, but then fog took over everywhere. And it was just kind of a dingy, soupy day out there. Just kind of gross, to be honest. I was not forecasting much of anything in the morning. We got some morning cells, but I step outside at 8 a.m., 9 a.m. It is 60 degrees. We're forecasting severe weather. It's 60 degrees outside. Dew points in the upper 50s. It felt gross out. Like, it was misty, it was foggy, it was drizzly. I went back in the hotel. I was like, screw this. I'm not getting anything today. And that was kind of my mistake. In that I just assumed, because where I was, which was in the bullseye of severe weather, was gross like that. I was like, oh, no, whatever. And so I started writing articles. Around 1:30, I look at satellite imagery. I'm like, oh, damn. 15 miles to my south, it was sunny and 82 degrees. Dew points in the 70s. So I blasted south thinking, okay, I'm going to go in the warm sector because I'm right near this boundary. What I should have done would be stay near the boundary, but I went a little farther south than I should have, just like many folks. Got nothing really impressive all that morning and the afternoon. And near the boundary, people were getting really good luck. There were only one or two chasers up there, but they were getting noodle after noodle after noodle. So around 6:30 that night, I figured the storms had done everything they could. I was to the south, nothing really impressive. Start driving back north to my hotel in Colby, Kansas. And then I saw on radar there was one cell that was kind of popping off to the west of Colby. I was supposed to be meeting my friend Kelby for dinner around 7:30 because she was driving up from Oklahoma City and she was driving to Boulder down I-70, and I hadn't seen her in forever. So I said, yeah, let's do dinner at 7:30. But I called around 7:15 as I was driving north because I saw this one cloud that just looked interesting. And it just felt, when you're a storm chaser and you do this long enough, and I mean, I've been doing this for 10 plus years, even though I'm only 23. I've been doing weather since I was 6 or 7 years old. So after a while, you get that kind of spidey sense. And I called up Kelby and I said, I'm going to be an hour late, so let's push back to 8:30. I just have to drive east and look at this cloud. There's something going on with it. And I was probably 20 miles away from it at this point. She said, oh, can I come? I said, nah, it's not going to be anything impressive. It's only 15 miles east, so whatever. So I start driving after it. And this is where I have to share screen again because y'all will appreciate this. So I'm driving after it. Severe thunderstorm warning. It eventually pops a tornado warning. I'm like, that's interesting. So I'm driving in. This is what I see. The road network takes me just south of the hook. So this is the rear flank downdraft. A lot of rain, a lot of hail, but I notice there's a lowering over here. And then I'm like, oh, damn, that's a little nadir. And it wound up being a big nadir. And I got there just around the start. I was a little bit late to the party. But I'm driving around, like literally the end of the hook, the tip of the hook is a quarter mile north of the highway. So rain, hail, everything just a quarter mile to my north. And this was going to be big hail, like baseballs. I just barely skirted it. No one in the road in front of me. Here's the tornado through the obscurity. It winds up kind of lifting. But then look at this, like this whole sky, it was creepy. The sky's a quarter mile to my north with the crazy rugged inflow. And then I get into this. And here, this thing's dipping, it's touching down, it's lifting back up, dipping, touching down, lifting back up. And I was like, well, screw it. Everyone else has pulled over. I'm going to go forward. We kept getting these suction vortices that were hitting the ground just in front of me. Those lifted. And then I watched as less than a quarter mile ahead of me, this amazing multi-vortex just rapidly developed. And this was kind of creepy. It was amazing, though. I've never been this close, other than the time I got inside an EF1. Never been this close to such a well-structured tornado, and it was unbelievable. Now, here's the thing. I was in a donut hole of calm around the tornado ahead of the RFD. I had my door open because I was excitable. I went out to take pictures. RFD comes in, all of a sudden at 80 miles an hour, 70 miles an hour like this, squeaks the door. I can barely shut the door. Rain is coming, hail is coming, all that stuff. But the RFD was warm. Like, we had temperatures of 82 or 83 in the RFD, which I've never seen before. That was amazing. The tornado passes in front of me. You can see it's still on the ground at this point. Like, this is a roughly half-mile wide multi-vortex tornado. There's a suction vortex. There's one. And it was really cool to see. And just look at that structure in the backside, like this curvature, the debris on the ground. But it was weird because it kept touching and lifting. So I wound up driving back west. And then the Mammatus display on the backside was crazy. I've only seen a display like that once or twice before. And the blues in between the orange Mammatus were amazing. So that was just wild. We even got these little vortices that would spin up within the Mammatus. Like, look at that little curlicue right there. Wow. Such a cool setup. And the colors were absolutely sublime. I also got to meet Jesus the next day. Jesus says hello. But that was an interesting experience. And then 2 days later, this was the day we got morning convection. Bird suggested nothing. I look out the window at about 10 a.m. We have tops to 60,000 feet. So I drive 15 minutes down the road, crazy blue sky, dropping baseballs. And look at that. I mean, who gets that at 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, that's very
This was the day. There were 10 tornadoes up in McCook, Nebraska. I went too far south because everybody was betting on warm sector initiation. Only a few folks went north. I went south. I got nothing until around 6:04 p.m. when I started noticing this tower getting going. It was a dud, but then it became an LP, and look how quickly it blossomed into a beautiful textbook low precipitation supercell. Everybody else took a road network or took paved roads. I had a truck, so I went on the dirt roads, and I was one of the only few to get pictures like this of this insane LP. And just, this thing was dropping. I was kind of annoyed because this thing was not severe warned for 45 minutes. It was dropping lime-sized hail for 45 minutes. I kept tweeting Goodland. I called Goodland. And yes, their hands were full, but in environments like that, it's often easy to miss an LP because they don't look impressive on radar. But this thing, obviously in real life, was very impressive. And it was dropping, like I said, lime-sized hail. This was when it finally got that severe warning. But look at that structure. Nobody out there with me. It was amazing.
That's beautiful.
And I was really bummed because I missed the tornadoes in northern Kansas, southern Nebraska. But, that was a good consolation prize. And I got some good hail shafts on the way home. And that wound up being my last day out there. I would have loved to have stayed, but I knew that I had to get back. Where I stopped showing the screen. There we go. Whoops. You can still see me, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was weird. It said,
something's
how'd the
going
stream
on.
go? So I was like, oh, did I quit? There we go. But that's when I figured, it was time to get home. I'd spent enough money. Looked to be a bit of a dud chasing after that. I wish I could have stayed in June. But I wound up getting back. I applied for the position at Fox 5 on June 6th, and I got the job on June 10th. And I went on vacation a couple days later, so I had to frantically... Or no, I'm sorry, I applied June 10th. I got the job like 4 days later. They interviewed me within 3 days, and then we had a weekend. Monday, they passed me to Human Resources. So I got the job on the 15th. I went on vacation the 17th through the 21st, and I started training on the 22nd, so it was extremely quick. I didn't even have time to put 2 weeks in with the post. I did 8 days notice and then took vacation days until I could put my 2 weeks in. So it was a really weird thing, but yeah. But it was something.
Yeah, that is. Those photos were freaking beautiful, especially that one when you got in the morning, Kansas. Absolutely beautiful face and everything. Anyways, I think Dallas, I think we have some questions. So I'll go.
More questions?
Well, I can't remember any currently because I'm outside watching a storm that looks like it did have it was a report early. So I'm just out here watching it on the screen.
Lou?
Yeah, I gotta start with myself. Trying to.
Andrew, you guys
rotate. So what was one of your like?
Hi, one near Newark. Where are you guys?
I'm south of Fort Worth.
Where's everyone based out of?
I'm in Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Very nice. Okay. And everybody else, similar area?
I'm just south of Fort Worth.
I'm in South Carolina.
I'm in Georgia, like south of Atlanta.
Okay.
I'm south of
Nothing happened.
Oh, there's one tiny tornado warning right now in Illinois.
I know.
Oh, it's so cute.
I know. I saw that.
And are you guys all in high school, early college? I'm guessing most high school?
Yeah.
I'm in
I'm
college.
13. I'm going into 8th.
Okay. Nice.
I am going
Very cool.
to be a sophomore this year. What are you sophomore?
And what school to go to?
I go to Rockville High School, Tennessee.
Okay, but for the gentleman in college, and I'm sorry, I forget everyone's names, but...
I'm Justin. No, I'm at the University of North Georgia. I'm just completing my
Okay, are
general,
you there for meteorology?
No, just my general ed courses. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Very nice.
It's just like the first
And
2
are you going
years.
to switch to meteorology down the road, or are you thinking...
Yeah.
Okay. And that's smart. Like, getting the gen eds out of the way, great way to save money ahead of time. Because, some of those schools, especially the meteorology schools these days, are unbelievably pricey. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why one of my.
I'd say probably 95% of the useful stuff I learned either on my own in the field or outside the classroom, like doing hands-on stuff. Yes, for me, college was helpful only for understanding really the mathematical dynamics. I understood intuitively how the atmosphere worked.
Right.
It was good for the mathematical dynamics. Otherwise,
That's how I feel.
Let's be honest. Like, yeah. And that's not to disparage. Like, college is great. Like, it was super helpful, and it's definitely necessary. A lot of math, a lot of science involved, and I'm glad to know what goes on beneath the hood and kind of behind the scenes, which, to be a good scientist, you need to know. But I kind of wish they would teach us more of the forecasting. Like, forecasting, I just learned on my own.
Right.
I didn't take a single forecasting course. I never took a writing course. I never even took a broadcasting course. Those are all just things like, yeah. I was like, screw it. I like being in front of the camera. And I'll just keep doing it until someone gives me a job and it works.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I'm kind of shy in real life. But,
So what was one of your other best chasing years besides this year?
2019 was great. 2019 was interesting in that Well, 2019 was good and bad. 2019 was good because there were so many synoptic events for tornadoes. Like, you remember that stretch of, I think, 11 or 13 or whatever days in May, where it was tornado after tornado after tornado. And yet so few of them were challenging to chase. I got out there on May 15th. So I actually graduated in 2019. I took courses at Harvard and then MIT too. So I hadn't finished. MIT schedule was different. I hadn't finished my MIT classes yet. The last class was that morning. So, and this was back when I was looking for a job. And back 2 years ago, no one would look at my demo reels. They're like, "Oh, you're 21, you're unestablished. You can't be a weatherman yet." Which is funny because now I'm 23 and like everyone's like, "Oh, come to our station, come to our station." But it's weird. Anywho, 21, like no one would give me the time of day. And so the only jobs that would pay attention to me were these low markets, which they pay less than $30,000. So I was going to graduate with a Harvard degree and get less than $30,000, or I could have gone to Wall Street for roughly $95,000 to $100,000, but I would have hated my life. And I had offers there, Wall Street. I went down to interview. What happened? So the Sunday of that week, I had to give the keynote speech for a scholarship thing. I did another speech on Monday. Monday night, what did I do Monday night? I was frantically working on a final project. I finished that and a take-home final. Tuesday morning, I got up at about 4 a.m. to go to New York City to interview, wore my suit down there. Got there, I had interviews from 10 to 3 p.m. And this was interesting. I had my offer for a hedge fund rescinded while I was there. I had the job offer. We're talking start date, cities, and all that stuff. And as I was leaving out the door, they said, "By the way, are you as passionate about finance as you are weather?" And I said, "No, but it's work and I'll do a good job at it." And they said, "We think you should stick with weather if that's the case." And they took the offer away right then and there, which in retrospect, I'm glad they did because I would have sold out for finance. But it was interesting to have that happen. So, like, now I'm beside myself. Like, I don't have any job offers other than 30,000. I'm panicked. And so the next day was Wednesday. I had a final paper, 2,500 words. No, I think 3,500 words due at MIT that I hadn't even started yet. And so I start that, like, I have my final class at 3 p.m. It's due at midnight. I start the paper at 3 in an Uber. I go to the airport, meet my buddy, and we fly to Atlanta. I'm frantically typing. Connecting in Atlanta. I'm working on this project. We fly from Atlanta to Oklahoma City after a brief layover. I finish the paper at 10:46 Central Time. I submit it as I'm landing in Oklahoma City at Will Rogers Airport. Submit it in Oklahoma with 14 minutes to spare. My truck is already waiting for me at the airport north of Nebraska, and that's when we get the McCook tornado, and then we get the Culbertson tornado, and those ones, I don't know if you can see behind me, but those are the ones that kind of adorn my wall up there. Let me see if I can share screen again. I'll show you those pictures. And those were like my first really good, crisp tornadoes. Like that was just a great chase. We go back to 2019. Yeah, so here's a wall cloud. You can see there's that. You can hear obviously like the clear slot just wrapping in. And then beautiful dusty tornado, the first one. I love just watching that clear slot. Like it was crazy to see the tail of the storm, the clear slot wrapping in really tight in rotation, the funnels coming down right there. There's the first tornado. And then the second tornado was just absolutely beautiful. And that was an EF3. Like it was a powerful one. At the time, hail the size of, I'd say a little larger than golf balls, so roughly 10 eggs was coming down. So it was something. Yeah, that came down, that knocked me in the head. It was great. And we had this. We got an LP supercell. This thing was kind of wimpy, but it was cool to see texture-wise. Like, just nice little LP floating there doing its thing. We got a little wimpy noodle on the high-risk day on May 20th, 2019. But that was largely the high-risk bust. But yeah, little wimpy noodle. And then I got, a couple days later, where was the sucky one? There was a boring funnel I got. Oh, yeah. This thing, that produced a little tornado. You can barely see it. Where is it? You can barely see the dust whirl down there. Here's a little EF0 tornado, but that was wimpy. So even though there were a lot of tornadoes, it wasn't a great chase year. 10 days later, I chased this one. This was the EF4 Linwood, Kansas one. You can see inflow right here. I mean, this thing was on the cloud on the ground. We blasted east, and here's a rain wrap tornado just passing to my north. You can see the whole sky spinning tornado in there, and no one really saw a thing, but it was creepy to see. And then we pulled right up on the damage, and I started doing Facebook Lives and reporting from the damage. And a few days later, I got a dust storm in Lubbock, Texas. So 20, it's off. I think it's right near the green line. It's a little bit north of Love Field. Have you been?
I believe I have. I think I went there like 3 years ago.
They're fancy. They're not overly pricey. I mean, you can get a dinner for two for about $55-ish, but it's really not that bad for like the quality of the stuff you get. But highly recommended.
Yeah.
But and then Atlantic, where are you?
I'm in South Carolina.
And what's your name again? I'm sorry.
My name is Staley. Staley.
Okay, Staley. Very cool.
Yep.
And then Justin, where are you?
About roughly 50 miles to the south of Atlanta. So like right between Atlanta and Macon. So
Okay. So did you wind up getting close to that tornado in Noonan earlier this year? Or did you get any debris fall?
I was chasing in Alabama with a partner.
I was in Alabama too.
Right. So by the time the tornado had hit, we was on our way back across the border, the Alabama-Georgia border. We missed it.
Yeah. I chased the tornado in Columbus. Or not Columbus, in Greensboro, Alabama. And I got less than about 1.5 miles away, and you could see this massive mass, but it was rain wrap, so I didn't get closer.
Right.
But so you're close to like the Barnesville, Bolingbrook area, right?
That's exactly where I'm at, Barnesville.
Okay, I know everything.
Wow, I am amazed.
No, I don't just no one knew I was a weather person yet. And I said, "Oh, where are you from?" She said, "Rural Oklahoma." I said, "No way, I love Oklahoma. What part?" And she got really skeptical. She's like, "No one likes Oklahoma." I said, "Come on, what part?" She said, "You won't know it." I said, "Try me." She said, "Pryor Creek." I said, "Oh, right off the Claremore exit, past a donut shop near Bob Mills Sky News Furniture 9, across from whatever, near." And she was freaked out. She was like, "How the hell do you know this?" I thought it was being all creepy. I'm like, "I've been there. I know Pryor Creek. I love that area." And then we became pretty good friends. And I've taken her storm chasing before. I see her as often as I can. But she was the one who I met in Colby, Kansas. But it was just funny because, like, she assumed nobody knew where she was from in rural Oklahoma. And yet,
Yeah. Was Lockett your best storm chasing day?
No, it was a great day. Like, it was probably the most convenient chase day and one of my better forecasts. But I made a silly call and I went south too quickly. I should have been farther east so I could have got closer to the tornadoes. I was still about 1.5 miles away. I could have been within a couple hundred feet. So that was a poor call on my behalf. But it's just tricky when you only have one meteorologist who's driving, navigating, trying to make sure you drive safely, but also do radar and keep an eye out the window. It's tough to do it all myself. I need a chase partner, but I don't know where to find one. So that's sometimes tricky. Selden was my best chase. I actually got into although last year there was nothing really in the plains, but I did get into an EF1 tornado, a QLCS tornado, with a decaying batch of supercells, or kind of emerging batch of multi-cell supercells overnight. And I was outside at the time, and I knew it was coming, so I wound up crouching down in the lee of a retaining wall where I knew I'd be safe. But it was weird to just watch debris fly past me and be like, well, it's a tornado, it's windy. Not many meteorologists can say they've been inside an EF1 before, but I guess so.
Yeah.
My first tornado was like one of the strongest to ever hit Tennessee. It was an EF4.
Was that the March 3rd last year near? It wasn't Nashville. Near Crisville?
Murfreesboro tornado in 2009.
Oh, I don't remember that one.
It was April 9th through 11th, 2009.
Oh, that outbreak.
Yeah.
That was
We had a high risk here.
Friday.
Yeah, there was a high risk from Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia, I think.
One of the few high risk we've gotten.
Yeah, I don't remember that one.
Yeah, I don't remember too well because I was really young. But I just remember seeing it, kind of. It's like
Yeah.
I was in second grade, I think.
I mean, I can't believe that this year. I mean, that 2020 was the best chasing year I've had. 2019, I was an amateur, and then this year, I missed. In total, I missed like 9 tornadoes in March and April alone, and then I broke my leg. So
Ooh,
yeah, I
that's just
was.
a series of unfortunate events.
Yeah, I miss. Okay, Comanche, Texas. I believe March 16th or something, somewhere around there. It might have been March 24th. I believe it was the day before one of the high-rise. There was a isolated cell and a marginal fired up down near Comanche, Texas. Tried to go down there, was blocked by the hail core. And my father works at a school, and he wanted to, drive to his school the next day, so he didn't want to blow out his windshield.
Yeah.
Then another day was Rusk, Texas. That was like 2 days.
Ah.
Yeah, I was up in Tyler, and I was up in Tyler for some reason. I don't know why, but we saw it way too late. We tried to drop south and completely missed it. And then I missed Lockett, and that day was God.
I was in Denton
Yeah.
for Lusk. I was mad at myself.
Yeah, I missed Lockett, but I did get the southern storm along that dry line was ridiculously LP. I posted it in the chat.
Oh, yep. Let me take a look at that. How do I get to chat? I'm not an expert with Discord.
Yeah.
Go to general under text
So
channel.
it's in the Discord server, so you just click on the Discord server that we're in, and then if you look on the left, text channels, below text channels, general.
Oops.
Yeah, here, I'll at you, and it'll pop up a notification.
Oh, okay, I see.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I remember that one. Oof. That's a beauty.
Yeah, that was the far south one. I asked my friend, hey, so which storm should I go for, Benjamin or Lockett? And he said, either is fine.
Oh. I've learned, and this is, I've learned to never trust other people out in the field, which sounds horrible, but there are times where I will have friends who are texting me, and they're weather friends, and they're brilliant too, but they're texting me things that make me second guess my decisions, and oftentimes you never want to second guess yourself, because out there you can see things visually that they can't see on radar, and you just have these gut feelings, and I wish I had trusted myself more. I've been better about doing that over the past few years, and so my chasing has gotten better. But that's something you really have to keep doing is just make sure you trust yourself over everything else.
Yeah.
It's tricky. I was going to say. Other things that have been fun to track on radar. I like tracking thunder snow on radar, which is something you can actually do because of something called ice crystal canting. You look at differential reflectivity, and you'll notice the ice crystals, which normally fall in a certain way, they're subjected to kind of aerodynamic forces. Suddenly, during ice crystal canting, which results from a strong electric field, they're more subjected to electric forces, and so they orient themselves in a certain way. And you can actually see that on radar as a charge builds up, and you'll see all the ice crystals start to orient, and then they'll realign after discharge. So you can actually see thunder snow on radar, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's interesting. Man. What was your experience with the February snowstorm? Did you get anything of significance, or was DC pretty much just locked out of it?
Oh, I hated that storm.
Oh, the storm in Texas?
Oh yeah.
God.
That storm made me angry.
Me
Partly
too.
because I won't get overly specific, but basically, I had always wanted to travel more for work, and I didn't always get that opportunity, even though I knew that I should have. And it was always kind of an afterthought. They are getting better about hurricane coverage. I don't know what they'll do now because I'm only working half-time there, if they'll still send me down for hurricanes, or if I can convince Fox Weather to send me down. That's one of the things on my list, like, get in with Fox Weather. But basically, I wanted to be down there, and I wasn't down there, so I was kind of bitter. But I covered it remote, and I did a bunch of hits for, like, BBC. I did 5 TV hits in one day, one of which I made by 2 seconds. I thought I had another minute. I made the hit by 2 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
So, although that happened, don't tell anyone, like, that happened to me last week. And at Fox 5 because I thought I had a little more time. And we were doing severe, so I was looking at the severe thunderstorm warnings and tweaking graphics, and they were like, stand by. I'm like, I don't have my show in play. And then they start yelling, stand by, stand by, stand by. And finally they came to me as I was facing around, and basically I was clicking, I was like, so we have temperatures right now in the mid to upper 50. Like, it looked a little awkward on air, but I played it off, but it was fine.
Man.
You know. I'm learning. It's funny. Live TV is very relaxing, but it's like, it's an adrenaline rush because you're doing hit after hit after hit, and the timing has to be perfect. You have to be in the right place and the right time, and you need to know what camera to look at and who to toss to. And it's challenging, but it's so much fun. But you forget it's live TV because, like, when you've been doing it for a while and you know weather, it's really easy. You forget it's live TV until all of a sudden something goes wrong, your clicker doesn't work, and then you're like, oh, I'm in front of 250,000 people right now. Help! But, yeah.
Have you ever had? Okay, so far in your career, have you had people get mad at you for breaking into their TV show?
That's never happened to me, just because like I've only been doing it at a local level for a week and a half, and prior to that, like I wouldn't, I didn't have any audience to break into. I just do Facebook Lives or whatnot. Or in the past, I've been doing stuff with BBC or CTV up in Canada or a couple others like that. And that was never broken in. Those were just national news programs, so that was fine. But overall, otherwise, like I haven't really had that chance yet. Although I'm sure at some point I'll be breaking in, and I will be interrupting the love of my life, Judge Judy.
Oh.
I did successfully catch the frog, but still.
Man.
I'm literally a big 8-year-old, but also I'm 80.
Wow.
Playing golf when it's 100 degrees and the 95% humidity, you get sweaty within a minute. It is terrible.
So I did a radio hit right before hopping on. It actually just aired a few minutes ago, but it is going to be hot all week here in DC, and we're used to heat, but this humidity is kind of rough. And I had said, well, gang, today's Monday, so let's practice some optimism. It's not bad that I'm forecasting 90s and humid every day this week. We live in a rent-free sauna. It's so hot that walking now counts as cardio. And we're not sweating, we're glowing. Let's just be happy it's not Death Valley. And then I worked in the Bermuda High and stuff like that. But I try to keep my radio hits pretty upbeat, pretty light, pretty fun.
Yeah.
Man, I still can't believe that it hasn't hit 100 here yet. It's been 330 days since it hit 100.
Wow. Move up to light in Canada. They'll get up to the 120s apparently.
Yeah, and CPC outlooks are saying it's still gonna stay cold. I mean, 6 to 10 day, we're in the
same here.
Level 3 and level 4 for the 8 through 14. If that's for cold, and for pre.
I believe it.
Yeah, it's been cool here too. We haven't even hit 95 degrees where I'm at, which is like really unusual.
Yeah, precip we're in level 3 both times.
Wow.
Man.
The humidity's been horrible.
Oh yeah, the humidity over here has been horrible.
It hasn't even been that hot. It's just the humidity is what's really making it bad.
I mean, the humidity got to 44% yesterday, and now it's back up to like 98. It sucks.
Yeah.
It never goes down here. It's like 80s, 90s.
I mean, we had a cold front pass through yesterday. It didn't change the temperature at all, and it made the humidity go down for one day, and then it picked back up.
Yeah, it'd be like that sometimes.
Yeah. So, speaking of that, what is the highest temperature that you've ever experienced?
100-ish? No, I'm sorry. It had to be 104 in Oklahoma a couple of years ago. I haven't really got that many crazy warm temperatures. I did fly to Minneapolis from -30 once just to see what it was like and blow bubbles that froze. That was fun. We got diamond dust, so ice crystals literally falling out of the air and just kind of depositing just because you couldn't really have anything else. I got... What else did I get? I was in Alaska back... Oh, this is a fun story. Where's my screen? I was in Alaska back in March. I brought my buddy Alan, and we flew up there to try to see the Northern Lights, but because we're both 23, we couldn't rent a U-Haul. We couldn't rent a rental car, so we had to rent a U-Haul van. And it was great. But it was minus 14 as we're driving around looking for the Northern Lights, and here they are. Here's the U-Haul van. It's tough to see right here, but it says Fairbanks Self-Storage. He and I got different flights in the it was pretty, but he and I got different flights on the way back. More about that in a second. Anyway, the light pillars. You guys know light pillars? It was minus 10 degrees at this time. Ice crystals in the air, kind of precipitating out of it, made these amazing pillars of light, acting as little miniature mirrors. I narrowly missed hitting a moose on the road with the U-Haul. Like, I came less than 4 feet away from it. But he left at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and then we met up in Seattle. But I flew at a 1 a.m. flight beneath the Northern Lights, and look at that. Like, it was incredible.
Man.
Yeah, that's on my bucket list to do one day.
Oh, do it? Well, I mean, there's no reason not to. I did it kind of on a whim, and I figured, I want to see the Northern Lights. I might as well go do it. What's stopping me? So I try to fly everywhere.
Yeah, and by the way, was negative 30 the lowest temperature that you've experienced?
Yes, minus 30 was the lowest. I got to get colder. I want to get to minus 50.
Man.
Same.
We just got a tornado report in Illinois.
Yeah, there was a tornado on the ground in Illinois.
Why? That's the only question I have is why.
Why?
It's a really nice one too. I put it in the chat. Man.
Oh, a little cute noodle.
Yeah.
Look at that thing. Huh.
Nice little noodle.
Yep.
Danger noodle.
And now the storm to the north of me has some pink spots popping up, so that's interesting.
There was a reported wall cloud, someone just told me, north of Dallas.
North of
Well,
Dallas.
In Dallas.
Wow.
In the DFW area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming Fort Worth, because Fort Worth does have something, but I don't see anything over in Dallas. And
Yeah.
I'm watching that one.
Question what he's saying.
Yeah, we should probably... Okay. Do you have any time limit, Mr. Cappucci?
The audio was spotty for a second. Say that again, please.
Do you have a time limit, Mr. Cappucci, that you can that you have to stop at?
Well, I do. Well, probably have to duck out in the next 10-ish to 15 minutes just because I have to get to sleep. I have a little more work to do, and then I have to get to sleep because, remember, I'm up at midnight again so I can do the 4 a.m. show.
Yeah.
Okay.
I get that.
Atlantic, you put, asking for questions on Twitter. You got a few.
Yeah,
You might wanna
Alright.
you got a lot.
ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I got a
there are questions? Are people watching us live?
No.
No, but
We just asked on
Playing
Twitter.
Twitter something about it.
Alright.
Oh, okay.
I got one.
I
So,
can-
Dinez RG says, how on earth do you wake up that early, and how on earth do you manage to manage that many jobs?
I'm one of those people who loves to be busy. It's my favorite thing. And plus, while I'm young, I might as well try to get out there as much as I can, do as much as I can, so that down the road I can save money and have a family and kids and all that stuff. So that's kind of the motivation that keeps me going. As for how do I get up that early? I just go to bed early. I've only done it, well, I haven't been doing it a ton, but I'm on the early morning shift every day this week with a great morning team. Like, they're just hilarious, and we have fun. And then I'm doing evenings on Friday. I have 5 shows on Friday night. But, yeah. Then this weekend, I have nothing. I teach on Saturday. Sunday, I have a meeting. I'm hoping sometime in the next couple of weeks. Like, I haven't had a day off in a while. I'm hoping sometime in the next couple of weeks to take a day off, but we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another question coming from Twitter is, what is the greatest SBC risk that you have been?
I've chased several highs, and well, 2 of them have busted for me, and 2 of them have busted for everybody. The third was that one in Alabama on March 25th, and that one obviously delivered. That had Noonan. Well, Noonan was over in the marginal, but that had the Greensboro, that had the, I think it was Huntsville or Birmingham that got hit. Like, that one accounted for the long track tornadoes.
Yeah, Brent.
Yep, I was in the Brent.
Okay, person named B says, what are the best study techniques or ways to remember information?
The hell if I know? I sucked at studying.
And then the other person,
Honest answer.
Yeah, then another person, which is the last person, just says simply hi.
Hi.
Hello to him or her as well. And, yeah.
Yeah, so
Nice.
I believe that's okay. Does anyone else have any questions?
No, I think I'm good.
Hellenic, you got any?
Nope, can't think of any.
Okay,
Alright.
so thank you, Matthew, Cappucci, for
Anytime.
coming on.
My
You were
pleasure.
great today.
Yes.
Thank you. And anytime y'all want me, I will be back. But great to meet you all. Thanks for a fun time and nice work in the podcast.